Hello, my honeys. This is Kamara with the Black Dove Oracle. I apologize for the break in me posting new readings. I was out of the country for the month of May, and that did not give me the opportunity or even the internet bandwidth to upload new videos. So sorry for the gap, but I hope that you are excited to dive back into some readings. I am. And if you are new here, welcome to the Black Dove Oracle. If you are a subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support of this brand new channel. I know that I took a break, but I hope that we can get back to rolling on some content for the Black Dove Oracle. So while I was away, I was partially on vacation, but also in a training. And part of that training was with some really powerful teachers. And one of the teachers said one day that it's important for us to understand that our fate is what we are given, what we are, even from what I understand, born into. So we're born into a particular family. We may have been born into a particular community. Maybe we're born into a religion or a country. But our destiny is what we decide to do with those conditions we call fate. And so our destiny is very much up to us. And it is impacted by our fate. But our fate alone cannot determine our destiny. We determine our destiny. So those two words kind of get interchanged every once in a while, but I wanted to explain it from the perspective of what I believe is true and also what I was taught. So this reading I thought would be great to do a pick a card on your fate versus your destiny. Now, we're going to answer about 5 questions in this reading, and I've decided to do mostly live pulls for those questions. But the very first 2 cards we're going to explore is the card that represents your fate and the card that represents your destiny. After that, we're going to answer questions such as what aspects of your life are most influenced by fate, and how can you best navigate these predetermined elements? The next question we'll answer is, in what ways are you currently exercising your free will to create your destiny, and how can you enhance this power? The third question that we'll answer is, what limiting beliefs about your fate are holding you back from fully embracing your ability to shape your own destiny? The fourth question that we'll answer is, how can you align your actions and intentions to better harmonize with both the inevitable and the changeable aspects of your journey? And the last question that we'll answer is, what steps can you take to transform perceived challenges dictated by fate into opportunities for growth and personal empowerment? So it sounds like a juicy, deep reading. Pick a card. And I'm here for it, and I really welcome you back to the Black Dove Oracle. And let's dive into the very first group. The timestamps will be in the description box below, and I look forward to joining you in your group. Thank you so much. Hello, group number 1. This is Kamara with the Black Dove Oracle. And welcome to your pick a card reading on your fate versus your destiny. Now, if you skipped ahead to the readings and you didn't listen to the intro, just a quick recap. Your fate is what you were born into, or some will say your fate is what was given to you. So your family was given to you, your economic circumstances were given to you, maybe your family's religious practices were given to you, your family's identity, belief systems, those are fated to you. They were given to you. But your destiny is what you do with that fate. So your destiny may be to change everything about that fate. Your destiny may be to maintain that fate. So for all of us, it's different, right? And this is a collective reading, you all. So please just take what resonates and really discard what doesn't. But let me know in the comments if something is really jumping out at you as in terms of this is your experience. So in one card, we have your fate being represented by perspective. It says here, a calm and clear mind is free to see differently. And your destiny is represented by this card, which when we turn it over, speaks about loyalty. There's blind alliances, we're stronger together, fortifying health connections, surround yourself with those who inspire you, honor promises. So group number one, what I immediately notice about your particular fate is that perhaps you were born into a fate that was very structured, meaning your family or your family of origin, your ancestral lineage may have been one that leaned heavily into certain belief systems. And those belief systems could have been religious. Those belief systems could have had opinions about money. Those belief systems could have had opinions about education, about cultures, your specific culture, your specific ethnicity, versus they may have had opinions and structures and rules around other ethnicities, other cultures, races, other nationalities. Other ways of living economically, to be educated or not educated, whatever it is, to work this job or not work this job, to be an entrepreneur or to be a worker, whatever it was, group number one, that was your fate, you are now looking at your fate and you are beginning to wonder if you can expand that perspective, the one that you were born into. Because now that you've got the tools, you see the being holding a binocular and looking out over the ocean. There's something very Sagittarius about this energy. You could have some very prominent Sagittarius energy in your chart. But if you don't, it's really saying to me that there's someone who either has or who is ready to take their life and explore the world, explore different cultures, different experiences. And I think, group number one, what may have held you back in the past may be holding you back now from that dream of wanting to learn and be inspired by different people of different backgrounds than yourself, is that there is in your fate story a certain kind of commitment to loyalty. Maybe you were raised to be loyal to your country, to be loyal to your culture. And anything that was perceived as outside of the culture, outside of the family in some instances, take it where it resonates. We're reading for a lot of people here. It could have been seen as disloyal. And for you, though, as this point in your life, group number one, your feeling is like you want to build stronger alliances with people who hold different views from yours, with people who can teach you about different ways of life, and you can exchange that with them. So there's something about your fate and your destiny having to be with expanding beyond the prescribed way of living, expanding beyond the perspective that you were given, which may for many of you feel small, feel limited. Let's go to what aspect of your life was most influenced by your fate. Because that fate was perspective, right? Group number 1. What aspect of your life was most influenced by that fate? Saboteur. It says highlights your fear of self-empowerment and changes it would bring to your life. Very deep. Induces self-destructive behavior or the desire to undermine others. That's the shadow attribute. I think that saboteur energy is coming in because in order to leave, I'm hearing the word spirit is saying the hive, the hive mind, the hive collective. You, group number 1, may have had to set out on your own, or maybe you're thinking that is what you're going to do. The timelines may be different for quite a few people, but you're setting out, or will seek to set out, and many of this journey will be on your own. So the aspects of your life that have been most influenced by your fate is the idea that going out in search of different experiences, in search of different philosophies and beliefs, is somehow wrong, is somehow disloyal to the system that you were born into. But this saboteur says, look at them. This person is in a balloon, getting ready to fly high. The saboteur is like, I've got to be empowered to seek out my own answers, to discover the world in my own way. So interesting, right? In what ways has your life been influenced by your fate? We have the destroyer. It says the light attribute, releasing what is potentially destructive, preparing for a new life. The shadow attribute is intoxication with destructive power, destroying others' dreams or potential. I get for many of you in group number 1, this was or is going to be a difficult transition. The one that says, I'm willing to leave, I'm willing to not belong so that I can find deeper belonging. The destroyer, group number 1, is about releasing the potential of destruction and turning it into a new way of life. When we look at this volcano, volcanoes are this eruption of water and fire, turning the soil literally into new land. And there's something about your journey, group number 1, where you've had to disrupt. Maybe some of you have even had to leave communities, leave a family that was completely enmeshed in order to seek freedom in different perspectives and to really test the boundaries of what loyalty really means. Because if you look at this card, group number 1, you're looking at 3 beings of different races, different life experiences, all held by the symbolism of the dog, which is loyalty. So for you, group number 1, Your destiny very much has to do with you creating new and different friendships with people from different life experiences. That is the way I think that Spirit is saying you are going to be able to exercise your free will so that you can create a destiny. But let's see what else Spirit has to say about that. Because how can you exercise this free will? That's a lot of cards, but let's take them. One says, let it rain. Allowing what is to trust what is. Inevitability. Planetary wave. Soul mission. Trust the inner call, the soul team. You have the sweet waters, sensuality, romance, enjoyment, fertility, balance. The healing lagoon, rejuvenate, recovery, time to heal, it's safe to stop. And lastly, the end call, healer, priest, priestess, priestess, soul purpose. Wow. When I look at all of these cards, group number 1, I'm seeing someone who had to really understand their fate before they could take the journey of their destiny. First, you had to be with what is, what you were born into. And maybe you had to heal from some of the enmeshment that may have happened in your family system. You may have had to sit with what is, which is that fate, right? And then it tells a story of you tapping into a soul mission, a mission that's much larger than your family system, and to understand that you have a soul team out there, way beyond the system that you were born into. You have a soul team out there, a team that's wanting to connect with you, a team in many ways, group number 1, that's calling you in. That's the sweet waters. I love the sweet waters because you know what it's saying here too? Is that you may find deeper connections even romantically, group number 1. Especially as you seek out to heal a lot of the maybe emotional turmoil that came with having to limit your experiences, have to limit your relationships, because very much in this kind of system that you were fated into, you may have only been allowed to know certain people, certain cultures, certain races, and you felt how limited your life was beginning to be. But you were born with this call. When, in different cultures, when you're born with this call, which is kind of like the sack, when the baby's born with the sack over its head, like it emerges from the womb fully in the sack, that means you are a healer. That means you are a seer. For some of you, you may have been born into a religious system, a system that didn't believe in healing, healers or seers or mystics or psychics. They may have demonized that even. And now you're going to set out and connect with soul family that actually is here to contribute to planetary healing, planetary awakening. And if that is part of your mission, group number 1, then you've got to know you're probably doing this with a soul team of people from all around the world, people with maybe similar experiences in some way and very different experiences in another way. What a beautiful purpose. What a beautiful destiny. So let's talk about what limiting beliefs you may still hold or you're working past currently that may be holding you back from really diving into your destiny? What limiting beliefs might be holding group number one back from fully realizing their destiny? I get a sense that some of you are already probably, some of you, because this card came in reverse, but I want to take it upright just to show you. It's the Ten of Swords. Many of you had to deal with betrayal within your fated system. You had to deal with the betrayal of being prevented or limited from knowing different parts of the world, from knowing different people with different experiences. You also may have had to learn how to, for some of you, you had to learn how to be with your privilege. Some of you may have been born into a privileged caste, I'm hearing. You may have been born into a privileged class. Class and caste, kind of like one and the same, but, slightly different. You may have had to challenge some of those belief systems that are created by caste and class. You may have had to cross caste lines to date people, to be friends with them. Same with class. You may have had to push the boundaries of what class was permitting you to call a relationship, or to permit you to connect with other people. Look at that. Yes, Six of Cups. Many of you, even as a child, gravitated towards difference. And this is outer difference. But even as a young child, you look at this, there's like a church in the back. As a young child, you even challenged the notion that you couldn't be friends with people who were different from you, visibly different from you. Even though you probably shared the same likes, right? Both children are holding flowers. Both children are putting the flowers in the cups, having a beautiful time together. So you are already, group number one, an outlier here. You always had this desire to move outward into the world and understand those around you who were in your community, who were in your country, who were maybe even not in your country or community, but around the world. So those were the limiting beliefs you had to shake up. You had to push the boundaries on, quite literally. And now let's ask, how can you align your actions and intentions so that you can harmonize what's inevitable in this, because you're still learning, right? You're still going out, into the world and discovering difference. But often with that discovery comes some of the baggage, the behaviors, the patterns that we've learned previously. Yeah, Two of Swords. Learning how to not have to choose. To not be caught up in the binary. That's what I'm hearing. To understand that there's a both and to all of this. And that wheel of fortune, it really turns for you, group number one, the more that you allow yourself to be vulnerable in areas where there's a lot of difference. In areas where it's not particularly immediately clear that you belong. In areas where there's more comfort because people are alike and we just understand each other, and not pushing the boundaries of finding out why people have different experiences in life, and understanding your own privilege maybe. Yeah. I think here too is you need to align with the fact that this is going to be a journey that puts you in a highly visible position. A person who's actually speaking out and speaking up and speaking to the collective about how important it is that we come together as one. Not in a spiritual bypassy way, but in a way in which we truly see each other as stars up in the sky, the multitude of stars up in the sky. And you will be the first one to point up, group number one. You will be one of the ones that says, we've got to stop the division. And here's a real way that we can do it. I've experienced this in my life. So can you. And maybe in some very high level way, you're going to initiate world peace because of this connection amongst the differences. Such a beautiful purpose, group number one. I feel a little emotional about it because I see you doing the work. You know? Yes. You're showing people the way. You have a candle here. This is the steps that you're going to take to transform those perceived challenges that are dictated by your fate into opportunities of growth and empowerment. You're going to show people the way, group number one. You're going to light a candle. You're going to be like, this is how I did it. So can you. And in that, you're going to find, if you've been kind of struggling with your life in terms of just work and career, you're going to find that for many of you, this takes on a career. It takes on a work that you begin to love. You have the goldfish here. It says increase material wealth and spiritual growth. You're going to see your life change for the better because you're bringing people together, and because maybe some of you will become a consultant, maybe some of you will become a teacher or a mentor. You're going to teach people how to come together, how amongst all of our differences, amongst all the pain of war and harm, how do we bring people together? You are really going to be a sounding board. I see the bell as because it says announcement here, but I feel like you're going to be a sounding board for a movement of people wanting to work together, wanting to collaborate, wanting to heal this world we're in. Yes, happiness. I went to a Michael Franti and Spearhead concert the other day, and Michael Franti, he said on stage, he's like, happy is the new sexy. I don't know why. This whole reading reminds me of him. Like, if you wanted an archetype for what this journey is, group number one, Michael Franti and Spearhead. Just someone who's definitely walks the talk in terms of happiness, in terms of collective growth and togetherness. I think that's where we'll stop, group number one. If you have resonated with any part of this reading, please comment below or give me a thumbs up. If you resonate with the way that I read and want to stay connected, please consider subscribing to this channel. It's brand new. I did take a break, so it really is helpful to get new subscribers to kind of keep the momentum going. And if this is where we part, thank you so much for allowing me the honor of reading for you, especially when it comes to the subject of fate and destiny. I know this was a collective reading, but hopefully it pointed out some real gems for you. And if it did, please comment below. Take care, my honeys. Hello, group number two. This is Kamara with the Black Dove Oracle. Welcome to your pick a card reading on your fate versus your destiny. Now, if you skipped ahead and you didn't listen to the intro, let me just do a quick overview of how I'm thinking about fate versus destiny as a definition. So the two terms are often interchanged, but my understanding is fate is what we are born into. We're born into a certain family, we're born into a certain body, we're born into a certain culture, we're born into a certain economic status, we're born into a certain country or ethnicity. So there's a lot that we are fated with when we enter into this world. And destiny is what we decide to do with that fate. Do we continue to forward the fate that we were born into, or do we change all or parts of it? So know that this is a collective reading, and of course this reading may not speak specifically to all of what is destined for you, but hopefully it will provide some spark of inspiration, and maybe it will tell a little bit of a story about your fate. So let's turn over these first two cards, and then we'll pull some other cards to get deeper into the reading. So your fate, group number 2, is represented by the card Enough. It says you were born enough. And you have a winged figure here in red robes. And then for your destiny, representing your destiny, you have this card, group number 2. It says patience, relax into stillness, return to the nature to recharge, transformation can be subtle, be at peace while waiting, conserve energy, slow down. So amazing how these two cards came out together. Group number 2. You know, many of us have been born into the fate of urgency. Many of us have been born into hardworking families, a family system that had to work hard for maybe sometimes the very little things that they had. A family system that may have struggled, may have always felt like they were on the edge of poverty. That might have been part or some of the story that you were fated into, group number 2. Spirit is saying some of you might have been born to single parent households, or maybe one of your parents died when you were a small child. Some of you may have had a parent that left the family when you were a small child, or even before you were born. There was a sense like, even though it's saying you were born enough, there's a sense here that I'm getting from Spirit, your guides, is that group number 2, you may have heard often growing up that there wasn't enough, that your best wasn't enough. Some of you may have came from family systems that really pushed the idea of education because that was the one way to transform out of poverty. So enough could never just be enough for you. Maybe your parents were worried that you wouldn't get a scholarship or you wouldn't find a way into higher education. And so they may have pushed you hard, saying your best wasn't the best. An A needed to be an A+. A C was never acceptable. Things like that. So for some of you, you grew up in this perfectionist kind of energy within the family system or the community system. Either way, you were always being told and compared to that things could be better with you, that whatever you did could be better. So you can imagine the anxiety, of that urgency, of that perfectionism. And what your destiny is pointing to now is a sense of groundedness, patience, the ability to relax and be still, to recharge and rejuvenate yourself, even just by going out into nature. To realize that those things can offer you subtle transformation. Just simply being at peace with who you are right in this moment, group number 2. I'm hearing from Spirit that some of you have learned that already, and some of you are in the process of learning that. Let's look at what has influenced your fate in terms of the aspects of your life that have been influenced by your fate thus far. What characteristics have been influenced? We have bully. It says highlights your tendency to intimidate others, helps you to confront the inner fears that bully you. The shadow attribute is conceals deep fears behind verbal and physical abuse. Again, I would say for you, number 2, not all of you, but maybe for some of you, and a little bit of a trigger warning because I'm going to mention things about abuse. I'm just giving you a moment to skip ahead if you want to. But I think that you have come to a place in your life, group number 2, where you've had to deal now with the past memories of being bullied, maybe even just by your parents, maybe by other children in school, because it was really hard for you to fall into that paradigm of perfectionism. Something always wasn't perfect. And maybe your parents or your caregivers' anxieties really began to bully you, begin to, that kind of criticism, it carried itself along with you in life. And where it started to happen as a light attribute is that you are now probably the most perfect person on your job, in school. You straight A+ everywhere, showing up on time everywhere, doing your job to immaculate perfection, has others intimidated by you. But little do they understand, you were fated into this position. It wasn't something you wanted to do, being perfect, being a high excelling at a very high rate. That wasn't something you wanted to do. It was something that you were bullied into or groomed into. We have the Father here. Talent for creating and supporting life. Positive guiding light within a tribal unit. The shadow attribute is dictatorial control, abuse of authority. So again, that trigger warning still stands. Some of you may have had a masculine figure in your life, regardless of gender, someone who may have taken care of the family, paid for everything. While this person in their softer times could be very supportive and a positive mentor for you, in their shadowy times they were very controlling and may have abused and bullied their authority with their authority, and I think that was something that you were fated to experience, group number 2. Those high expectations, the relentless criticism and evaluation of your work and maybe even your character. So let's answer, what are you exercising as your free will to create the destiny that will enhance your power of patience, your power to give yourself relaxation, to recharge and restore yourself, to not burn out, to not be a victim of urgency. The mist. It says, trust your inner compass. Be led from within. So group number 2, there is going to be this practice, right, of you understanding that your answers are coming from within. The practice is for you to tap into that inner wisdom, that inner peace, that inner calm. But you can't just do it out of nowhere. There's something Spirit is saying to me right now that you need to understand that practice, whether it's meditation, yoga, sitting in nature, just taking moments to journal, it's something. Getting the proper sleep, it's a practice. And you have to dedicate it to yourself just as much as you dedicate your energy towards perfectionism and urgency. King Tide, plenty, prosperity, receiving the fullness of life. For some of you, and I'm glad this card came up, because King Tide is the positive masculinity, the positive masculine energy that says that there is enough, that we can be in the fullness of our lives by simply understanding prosperity is not only money. Prosperity is not only the highest grades or the best job. Prosperity is our connection with the divine. So for many of you, group number 2, you will, if you are going to have children or you think about having children, you want to be the light attribute of this father energy. You want to make sure, that you connect with a partner and a mate that carries the lighter attributes of the father, and that understands how quickly the father energy can become toxic when it's dictatorial, when it wants to control. So your destiny here, group number 2, quite plainly is outlining the softness of your life is your destiny. Letting go of limiting beliefs that keep you bound to your fate. Let's ask Spirit about that a little bit more. Like, what limiting beliefs are you going to have to reshape in order to allow your destiny to happen, group number 2? We have 6 of Cups here. Wow. It has a different meaning, but it came up in group number 1. We have the Magician in reverse, and Spirit is saying to keep it reversed. And then we also have the 6 of Wands, but Spirit is saying here to leave it upright. So interesting. Because the 6 of Cups, it takes a different meaning here. You see the children, but in this case, it's your inner child. The inner child being allowed to go and explore with wonder its environment, its nature. And to do that, maybe even amongst friends. To allow your inner child to explore, because that inner child was actually parentified for some of you. That inner child was sent to work for many of you. And now that inner child in your healing process needs opportunities to reconnect with wonderment and not be so ego-based. Some of the beliefs that are holding you back as well, group number 2, is the idea that you have to manipulate in order to get your needs served. because maybe early on that was the only way that you could negotiate time for yourself, was to manipulate because a magician, when they're upside down, is a master manipulator. But in the case of, and I don't mean to activate you, and it's not to judge you, it's just saying this was a behavior, a pattern you had to take on to get some of your needs met early on. And it may just be a pattern that you continue to exercise. But Spirit is saying here, in order to move into your destiny, which is quite literally the Six of Wands. Six of Wands is your victory. The victory of overcoming a sense of urgency and perfectionism. To ride in to town exactly as you are when you want to, at the pace you want to arrive in your victory when you want to. You don't see this figure galloping in, and you see behind this figure there's a crowd rooting them on. Like, wow, you broke free. You broke free of our collective fate. For some of you, you're breaking free of a collective fate. A fate that many people in your culture or your city or your college, I don't know, you know what that fate is. And it's almost as if it became an ethos of this collective. And you, group number 2, you broke free of it. You allowed for yourself to set your own pace in life, to define what's important to you by your own ideals, your own value, your own destiny. I think another question we have here is, how do you align actions and intentions to better harmonize both the inevitable and the changeable as you're on your journey? How are you going to set an intention to consistently live this way, even when there's pressures around you from a system, from an organization, to be in urgency, to be in a perfection? I love it. The Fool. Because that's the energy you really need to be in, right? Group number 2, to debunk the stress, the hamster wheel, to get off of it. And once you get off of it, the people around you don't know how to live at a healthy pace, at a grounded resonance. And you don't know either. But when you get off of that hamster wheel, guess what? You're in the Fool energy. You're in the energy of self-discovery here. That comes about with that Six of Cups. That self-discovery of that inner child. And again, the Fool to me is also that inner child energy. Like, I don't know where I'm going. I just want to experience life, the adventure of life. That is that energy. So in many ways, group number 2, your destiny is wrapped up in your ability to have new experiences, to discover life, to be an adventure in life. I love that. I love that so much. You don't know how inspiring that is. So what steps can you take so that you can transform the perception of your fate, dictating all your opportunities for growth and empowerment? What steps can you take to really guide yourself toward your destiny? Well, in the month of June, which, when I'm filming this is in a matter of 2 days, you are going to have an opportunity to receive some advice from a very good friend, a friend who's going to point out to you either something that you're doing or something that you could take advantage of. This friend is going to have some information from you. And I think it has to do with your work. Maybe you're trying to, and this is going to be very specific, but someone might be writing something and rewriting something and saying, it's not perfect yet. And your friend might say, it's actually pretty good. You can leave it there. This friend, I think they want for you to see that there's other areas in your life that you can give attention to, such as love. Such as, not defending your perfectionism, but just letting it go and experiencing other areas of your life. To understand that the family system that really wanted you to be excellent, they were responding most likely to the threat of poverty, the threat of being without. And so a lot of your healing is going to come from just allowing yourself to understand the past, understand the motivations of those around you. Because again, that shark is there. It was like you grew up in with the narrative that there isn't enough, that you've got to do the best. You've got to save us from this fate. But, actually group number 2, our parents, our caregivers, the people in our family, they have their own fate and they have their own destiny. And so do you. So I think that on your journey to wellness, to maybe lowering those cortisol levels and really getting back into your body and relaxing and sleeping and eating well, that is going to be how you affect your destiny. Simple self-care. So, group number 2, this is what I have for you in terms of your fate versus your destiny. If any of it resonated for you or rang the bell or inspired something, can you please leave a comment below or give me a thumbs up? And if you like the way that I read, would you mind subscribing to this brand new channel? It needs a little more action because I was gone for a month. I had to take some time off and I couldn't record any videos and upload them where I was, but I would love to stay connected. And if this is where we end, I feel so honored to be able to read for you, especially on such a really vulnerable topic of fate versus destiny. Thanks so much, my honeys. Take care. Hello, group number 3. This is Kamara with the Black Dove Oracle, and this is your pick a card reading on your fate versus your destiny. Now, I have 2 cards representing, one representing your fate, and the other representing your destiny. So let's dive right into it. We'll do some other live picks in this recording. So let's go to your fate. Your fate says sharing, group number 3. There is giving and receiving and giving. And your destiny shows a figure, maybe a guide coming to tap on you while you're burning the midnight oil on top of some books. It says awakening. Listen to your intuition. The answer is within you. Reconcile your mind and heart. Let your spirit lead. Very interesting. Group number 3. Your fate. It speaks about very similar to group number 2, but in a different way. It speaks about a fate that has always been around giving. More than receiving, actually. You may have grown up or was born into a family system where it was honorable to give. That giving meant that one was in alignment with humanity. And maybe you came from a long family system that gave in some ways. Maybe they were philanthropic. Maybe they were, missionaries. Maybe they were volunteers. There's something about the whole family line giving. And here's something that might be a little controversial to say, is that fate is not entirely bad, right? Fate doesn't have to always be a challenge or a struggle. But fate will also show you where the family patterns are. And for some of you, you may have even grown up in a family that was not well off, a family that struggled a lot, but a family that also gave. They may have given their last cent in some cases, given their last bag of groceries to someone else who needed it. Many of you grew up in a household where maybe there were many different people living in the household because your family took them in. You may have grown up in situations where the giving was always happening on your family side, but very little reciprocity was happening on the other side. Especially maybe when you grew up, and this is specific to some of you, maybe growing up, you experienced going without because your family gave away essential things that you may have needed. And we can see in some ways that giving becomes a little toxic, right? Because it doesn't take care of the essential needs of the family first. The Spirit is saying here, some of that may have had to do with guilt. Take it where it resonates, but a lineage dealing with guilt somehow. Maybe around wars or maybe around privilege. I don't know. But that did come up for someone. So what is your destiny? Or what is the energy of your destiny, group number 3? It's awakening. Allowing your intuition to guide you when it's time to give. And knowing that the answer is always within you and not necessarily on autopilot. Like I have to give. But instead, being able to reconcile with your heart and mind, when is it the best time to give? And when is it the best time that I need to hold on to things because I have a plan or I'm building something? It's a very tricky fate in destiny here, group number 3. I'm glad it came up. Because sometimes fate and destiny is not always so clear. It's not always a good, bad thing. But it is a pattern of behavior, sometimes a pattern of enmeshment, that in some areas of our lives, it's very good to give and even give some more. But in other areas of our lives, it may be at the expense of those other areas. Let's see what aspects of your life have been most influenced by your fate and how you can best navigate those predetermined elements. Hero, spirit, wow, spirit works all the time in these readings, you all. Hero, heroine. The light attribute is a passion for a journey of personal empowerment. The shadow attribute is escapism, a false sense of heroism. And child eternal. The light attribute is determination to remain young in the body, mind, and spirit, ability to see things through fresh eyes. The shadow attribute is the inability to grow up and be responsible, extreme dependency on others for physical security. Very interesting, you all, because I believe that your fate may have also been reversed. Now I'm hearing that from spirit. For some of you, instead of being in a family that was always giving things away, you may have been in a family that was always receiving things. Maybe they were on public assistance a lot, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying they were always in a position of taking donations, handouts. Maybe there was just a lot of poverty. And maybe in some of that, there was a mismanagement of funds or very little to go around. For some of you, that was your fate. Being born into a system of lack, extreme lack. And I mean in a most material sense, like money and housing and having the proper basic needs cared for, like clothing, housing, food, those kinds of things. So it's funny that the two binaries show up here. The one through the child eternal, the fate that has been the aspect of fate that has been influenced by extreme poverty, and the aspect of fate that has been influenced by extreme wealth. Wealth that you give away. You give away everything. Just give. While the other extreme is take. And you see in these fated destinies, even of group number 3, there's a shared destiny here. What is that, spirit? What is this shared destiny? Because you have to exercise your free will in order to create this destiny. So what is it that group number 3, whether you're on one end or the other, in the middle somewhere, what does group 3 need to exercise as their free will to kind of break through this fate, this shared fate? Water codes. It says ancient wisdom. The intelligence is within you. Very interesting. Beneath the surface, what's really driving you? True motives, breaking free. I'm starting to get it. And lastly, let it go. Release the past, forgive, soften, move forward. A lot of water here, right? Because the lack and the privilege, they're fates that are really wrapped up in emotion. I think these water codes are pointing to knowing that balance is within you. And to know that when you are kind of staying on the surface with your giving, or staying on the surface with getting and receiving, to know that you need to dive deeper. Am I truly suffering because I don't have this one thing? Or is this something from my past that's triggering my past sense of lack? Same for giving. Am I just giving because I have the money? Or am I giving because I'm truly connected with who I'm giving to? and I have a desire to see them transform their lives, not just write a check out of guilt. And then the whole aspect of letting it go, to understand that our families had their own fate. While we can determine our destiny from that fate, we don't have to follow in the same footsteps of our family. We are allowed to live a destiny that's much greater than our parents or our lineage. In fact, in many traditions, that is the way. Your ancestors want you to live better than them. And sometimes we get caught up in feeling like we need to carry that suffering all the way through the family line. So, what limiting beliefs about your fate might be holding you back from embracing your destiny? What limiting beliefs might be holding you back from embracing this destiny? Page of Swords in reverse. The Well in reverse. Ace of Wands in reverse. The limiting beliefs that are holding you back is that you can't introduce new thought into your family system. You can't act differently from your family line. That your fate, even your prosperity, maybe your material life is wrapped up in how your family has always done prosperity and abundance. When I say that, I mean, it may be wrapped up in how your family has thought about prosperity, how they've thought about abundance. And it keeps you, when the Ace of Swords is in reverse, not swords, but Ace of Wands in reverse, it keeps you stagnant, almost like unable to make a decision or take action. And I think Spirit is pointing out here that because these binaries are so extreme, the privilege and the extreme poverty, there is a certain buy-in that we have to that energy, because the family wants to keep that narrative going. Maybe your family has run out of resources and there really isn't more to give. Maybe your family actually, if they managed their money or took some other steps, could see that they actually have enough to live off of. Those are just ideas, you all. But how can you align your actions and intentions to better harmonize these binaries and really begin to understand the changeable aspects of your journey? How can that happen, Spirit? Working together, collaborating. Spirit is saying that the destiny of group 3 has to do with not doing it all on your own. That there is something called the will of reciprocity, where one gives, the other takes, where one takes, the other gives. And it's a circle, right? It was never meant to be a binary. It was meant to be a circle. And that requires working together, giving and taking together. The Lovers. For some of you, these fated binaries have seeped into your relationships. Some of you may have married someone with a lot of money, while you came from a family that didn't have a lot of money. Vice versa. And how do these fates interact in your relationship? If you're not in a relationship, how is it influencing who you're attracted to, who you're not attracted to? How does it influence even these? The lovers can also be about these states within yourself. How you allow for yourself to experience prosperity, and how do you allow yourself to experience lack? Page of Wands. I think the alignment would have to come from you really taking decisive action to live differently, to allow for your destiny to begin to be a driving force in your life, a force of change even. Right, group number 3? What steps can you take? Because you're going to have to take some decisive steps in order to transform these perceived challenges that have been dictated by your fate into opportunities for growth, into opportunities for personal empowerment. You're going to have to be vocal about it, group number 3. You're going to have to speak up about the patterns that you see and the changes you want to make in your life. You're also going to have to be grateful when that good fortune comes, just to allow yourself to be with it. Some of you may find that in weird ways you have the best of luck. You may even win the lottery and you're just like, oh my God, here's another, you might be one of those people that doesn't see it as a blessing, but you played and you won. And there's something about recognizing your good fortune. That's a weird example of the lottery, but maybe it's just recognizing that, yes, my family has money. They're able to give when they can, and it's nothing to feel guilty about. Same as my family sometimes struggles, and sometimes we need to get resources from other places, and that's okay too. We work hard, and sometimes we have to deal with our fate of not having enough, but does not diminish who we are. You get what I'm saying, group number 3? Yeah, because there's a lot of heart that comes into these issues of deservability, of who gets to experience an empowered, resilient life. Both sides can. Both sides can. And to understand that, a lot of what is changing our fate, especially around issues of money and resources, has nothing to do sometimes with luck. It has to do with a long line of oppression, a long line of poverty, a long line of illness, whatever it is. And we take that fate and we see how we can disrupt it, how we can allow for new energy to be infused in that fate, so that it becomes destiny. Spirit says one more card here. I think Spirit is wanting you here to stick to your ideals, stick to your principles. Make your principles an obvious step towards releasing yourself from a fated existence into one where you control and create your destiny. And much of that has to do with the expression of love, regardless of what has happened, and maybe regardless of what continues to take place. Well, group number 3, I'm going to leave you here. If you resonated with any or part of this reading, would you mind giving me a thumbs up or if you can make a comment in the comment section. I would love it. I'm growing this brand new channel. I had to take a little bit of a break because I couldn't upload videos where I was. But if you are inclined and you like the way that I read and you want to stay connected, please subscribe to the channel and then click that bell, because you'll get notified when I upload new videos, which should be more regular now. I really do appreciate you. If this is where we part, I've loved the honor of reading for you, especially when it comes to the ideas that are a little complex about fate and destiny. But I hope that this provided some information and this was useful to you. Thanks so much, my honeys. Take care.